Welcome to this session on writing for audio drama with me, Chris Gregory, full-time idiot, part-time rodent.
And me, Emily Inkpen, full-time nerd, part-time rodeo rider.
And this session is part of the SpotlightIndie Big Weekend. Hello, Fraser Armitage. So thank you to the SpotlightIndie team for inviting us to talk about our favourite topic, which is audio drama, and specifically writing for it.
Together, we run Alternative Stories, a production company making shows like The Dex Legacy and Wasteland, Dex Legacy Story, and Burnout, and more.
So, Emily, we're going to start with a bit of background. You are a novelist, first and foremost. I've read your stuff. You're a very good novelist.
Oh,
a
thanks.
seriously good novelist. But about 5 years ago, I persuaded you to dabble in script writing. And now you are an award-winning, chart-topping audio drama writer with hundreds of thousands of downloads under your belt. But what did you think initially when I invited you to write a script?
I thought I couldn't do it. So my initial thought when you messaged me on Twitter back when it was a good place, was I don't write audio drama. I can't write audio drama. And then I gave myself a bit of a talking to and decided to try because, like trying something new is always about taking a bet on yourself. And I think that my inclination is always to be like, I can't do something if like it's very tempting to try and stick in your lane and everything, but you don't find out if you can do something unless you try. So I gave myself a talking to before I responded to you. And I think it took me a day to respond to you or something. I didn't respond immediately.
Yeah.
And then I came back with but in between you sending the message and me responding, there was a bit of an internal, like,
Was there
let's give
turmoil?
this a go.
Was there
Not
turmoil or a
turmoil.
maelstrom of emotions or something like that?
Anyway, I wouldn't call it maelstrom, but I would say there was definitely a conversation that happened internally. And yeah, so basically I decided to give it a try. And here we are.
Yeah. Now, so I suppose the first question, because, people have tuned into this to find out about how to write audio drama. But
Yeah.
I suppose we should think about some of the reasons why they might. So is writing for audio or writing any sort of scripts really something you would recommend other writers have a go at? And if so, why?
Well, first and foremost, writing in any capacity helps you in whatever form you consider to be your main sort of art form. So writing for audio drama, if you've never done it before, try it because you can't lose anything. And a new skill or a new sort of exercise in writing is always beneficial. It's also fun. It gets you out of the writing cave, as I always refer to it. If you're a novelist, you can be quite isolated. And events like this are great because they get everybody together and they build connections and everything. But nothing breaks you out of working individually like having to work as part of a team, which making audio drama inevitably forces you to do.
Yes.
So it's really, really good. It also like improves your dialogue skills because 9 times out of 10, if you're writing audio drama, you have got to write some dialogue. It's not all
Well,
going to be monologue.
I mean, we're going to talk about dialogue in a minute because dialogue is the bedrock, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. But there's all sorts of different ways you can write audio drama, but dialogue is really the thing. So it's going to improve that hugely. It's going to improve your scene structures as well. How I structure chapters is now completely different to how it was before because I structure them more around key pivotal conversations and events and like, it's like scene setting. It's playing out a scene. And it didn't used to be like that at all. It's also a great platform. It can increase your profile as a writer and it gives you something very different.
It's certainly done that for you, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I've got a BSFA award. I don't know if you can see it. It's a glass one.
You can't see
so
it because it's transparent, but
it's there. It's there. Yeah. So I got a BSFA award, which was very exciting. And yeah, it's also like, if you've ever thought about writing scripts, for any medium,
film
it's a
or
great place to
TV
start.
or whatever,
Exactly.
or the
Yeah,
stage.
yeah, exactly. It's a great place to start.
Yeah. But I think it's important to say it's an art form in its own right, and
Oh, absolutely.
we'll hopefully whet your appetite a bit. Now,
Yeah.
something you once said, which has stuck with me, is that audio drama is the home of sci-fi and fantasy.
Oh,
And we,
sci-fi more, I
yeah,
think. But yeah.
more sci-fi, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we are both massive fans. We bonded initially over a love of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But
Yeah.
what was it you meant when you said that audio drama is the home of sci-fi?
It's got everything to do with the fact that to write like to create a story in film that is sci-fi, you're going to have to invest a lot in special effects, CGI mostly, because you're creating spaceships and galaxies and all of the rest of it. If you are utilizing the human brain, which is the most powerful CGI machine ever, and you can give it key prompts in audio, and then it does its thing. Like listeners have all of that between their ears; they do it for free.
Yeah.
So, the first time I saw spaceships was when listening to The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I saw them in my head just with some sound effects and the reaction of the characters to what was going on. I saw it clearly. And so I always think about, the fact that audio makes what would be big budget sci-fi productions very affordable just by utilizing the human brain that is already right there.
I've never done the maths, but for what we spend making a whole season of like 14 or 15 episodes of The Dex Legacy, we'd probably be able to afford about 2 minutes of film.
Not even
that, actually.
No, when you think about the number of people who are involved and the amount of time that it takes to set up, takes and all sorts, it wouldn't even, you'd struggle to get 2 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
For that amount.
So another reason I think why audio drama can be fun and give you a platform is that there are millions and millions of fans of audio drama out there. I mean, we've found a lot of them, I think, haven't we? But it is a whole world, isn't it? And many of them are fans of sci-fi and fantasy. I think disproportionately those genres are represented very well in the world of independent audio drama, particularly, aren't they?
They are, and to the point that,
and horror
for
maybe
instance,
as well.
Horror does really well, but on Apple Podcasts, for instance, you've got the fiction category and you've got the science fiction category because there were so many sci-fi audio dramas that were dominating that other genres just weren't getting a look in. It's and so they decided to separate the sci-fi into its own category. It's like, okay, we'll put you guys over here, and then these people will have more visibility. And so there is there's not a horror category, there's not a fantasy category, there's not a like anything else. It's the science fiction category, and then there's a drama category, there's a comedy category. But I mean, as sci-fi, you can sit in both sci-fi and drama or sci-fi and comedy. But sci-fi is the key genre, sort of specialist area.
And it's a real one of the charts that we love to be in. We were number one in Norway, weren't we, a couple of weeks ago?
We'd be number one all again. It's very cool being number one in places. We're doing really well in some markets. I wish I could tell you they change all the time.
They do. But it's very good fun.
We're in the top 100 in the USA, which is really we're at number 85 or something in the USA. And FYI, guys, that sounds like it's quite far down, but in the USA,
the chart goes down to 250 and
more,
and more. Yeah. So anyway.
It's like before you fall off the chart in the USA, it's a big number. Before you,
we should probably stop gloating and do some actual talking about writing audio drama, shouldn't we?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. Serious faces. So the topic I have next on my list is script format and terminology. Having established a few reasons why writers might wish to dabble in writing for audio drama, and there are others apart from being number one in Norway, let's start with some basics. So script format and layout. Emily, an audio script is not like a novel or short story, is it? it reaches the audience, most importantly, I think, via intermediaries, actors. It's not intended to be read, but heard. And for this reason, it's doing a lot more things than the text of a novel or short story. So can you explain some of the perhaps less obvious things that an audio script is trying to do, please?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I always describe the script as foundation. Like when you're writing a novel, the words on the page are the product that you are selling people. When you're writing a script, that's never going to be seen. Like you say, it's the foundation on which everything else stands. And then layers and layers later, the listener will get to it. But the script itself is a working document, and it needs to fulfill certain functions for everybody involved. And that's the actor, it's the producer, it's the director, and all of these functions need to be fulfilled on the page.
Yes.
So that when you're in the studio, and this is where audio scripts differ from screen scripts. When you're writing for screen, an actor will learn their lines ahead of time because they're not walking through a scene with a script in their hand.
Yes.
When you are recording audio drama, the actor is working from the script. It's there in front of them. And so, you might have seen a script format for a movie where the dialogue is in a little box like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then all of the directions and everything are quite big and given a lot more space because the people who have the script in their hands when they're making the movie or whatever they're the ones that need all of the majority text. The actors have already learned their lines.
Yes.
Ideally. They'll just be looking for the odd prompt potentially, but they won't be looking at it during the scene. So the script isn't for them in that moment. So when you're writing for audio drama, you want your actors, the dialogue, to have the most space because they are going to be reading this and performing on the go. And so I always put the actor lines wide, and then the producer notes are sort of in a narrower column. And all those is sound effects.
Yeah.
And we're talking atmospherics, Atmos, we're talking FX, effects. Atmospherics are things, this is your department. Why don't you talk about Atmos?
Well, yeah, okay. Well,
I'll
talk about those things. Somewhere we'll also show you a script format as well, so that you can
that's a good idea.
See some of this. Atmos are the sounds that are there in the background all the time through a scene. So let's say our scene. We don't do this a lot in sci-fi, but let's say it's set in a park in a city. So the Atmos would be distant sound of traffic, bit of bird song, sound of people talking. And then the FX are the sounds that come and go. So when character A appears, their footsteps come in from left to right, and that would be the FX. And then a tip for writers, therefore, is to try and distinguish between the two. And things like footsteps, which are, a mainstay of so much of audio drama sound effects. Another hot tip is know as a writer what shoes they're wearing and what the surface they are, because if you don't tell me as a sound designer, I'll have them wearing flip-flops on snow or something silly like that, whereas what you envisage was fashionable boots on carpet or whatever. So I will do my thing, but so that's broadly the difference between Atmos and FX.
And the role that they play. So I normally put notes pertaining to that in a sort of narrower column, which you can then refer to while you're producing and doing that phase of things. For the actors, and this is a key point, a lot of people, I see this in scripts sometimes, is that they put vital indications of performance in the directions for the scene. Don't want to do that. Because your actors are performing on the go, you need to put all of the pertinent information to their performance in the beginning of the line so that they can scan, read the words in that way.
Otherwise, you get things like actors shouting, "Disappointed," which is a direction as opposed to something
but you have to you have to put them in the line. I'm talking about sort of like whispering, for instance. So it says character name and then brackets in in caps, whispering, close brackets,
Hmm.
dialogue, so that they are prompted at the beginning of that line to whisper.
Hmm.
If you bury these characters are whispering in a quiet room in the block of information, live in the booth, they're not going to be reading all of that information. They're going to be going with the flow of the conversation. So they're going
Yeah,
to
yeah.
miss all of that. That
Mm.
information isn't for them. Whatever it is has to go in here. Beat, take a pause it, like beat in brackets in the middle
Yeah,
of their
yeah.
state, their thing. You're not going to have time to rehearse this either. You don't get rehearsal times. This isn't a stage play. You go into the studio, you are getting what you need then and there. You're
Mm.
not going to have time to develop a character. You need to give them full on instructions in
Yeah.
their dialogue.
I mean, typically we might get time to do a table read, which will be on
Mm,
Zoom a week or so before
maybe.
we go
Yeah.
into the studio. But it is a maybe, actually. We'll give them
Yeah.
notes on the character, but generally they're going to get most of the information they need in the booth on the day.
Yeah.
And you need to be giving them as much as you can because this is costing you money to be in this studio.
As soon as you're in the studio, it's costing you a lot of money, and you want to. I mean, for Dex and Wasteland, we were trying to get what we needed within 2 takes.
Mm.
That's not enough time for you to be going, I think that maybe we need to like quieten your voice in that bit, maybe like ease up off it. No, 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 there's no space for that.
You got to know this stuff up front, haven't
Yeah,
you?
it's
And
got to be very obvious up
mm,
front what you
I think
want.
I think
And
so. The
yeah,
other person or the other group of people that are using this script, other than the actors, are the directors actually. So we will be sitting
exactly.
in a control room. We'll have paper versions of the script, and we'll be scribbling all
Hmm.
over them and underlining lines and all sorts of things like that. So it becomes a bit of
Yep.
well, very much a working document,
Yeah.
a scribble pad as well.
Yeah, and you're underlining things, and your pronunciations are a big thing. So
You're a big one for
ring.
smiley faces in the margins, aren't you?
I love a smiley face. Everybody loves a smiley face. I don't know what point of adulthood people think that you're too grown up for a smiley face, but like no, our actors get smiley faces
I
because
think it comes
if
after
nothing else,
stickers. Well, we don't give stickers anymore, but we do give
we d
smiley faces.
not enough. No, but the thing is that actors, if they've got 2 takes to get something right, at the end of the take, you're giving them, okay, more of this, less of that, like everything.
Mm,
It could be quite difficult for them at the end of a day of being given direction to know if they got anything right,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
And so putting a smiley face as an indication of where they really nailed it
Mm,
and letting them know you nailed this. This was perfect. You nailed that.
and also us
It,
remembering it as well, actually.
yeah,
When we come to do
exactly.
post production, which can be weeks or months after the actual recording,
Yeah.
having those memory joggers can be
I
really
put
useful.
smiley face, take one,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know, and then it's like, yeah, take
So
one. I was
we
really
liked
happy with
that
that.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, hard on the heels of laying out a script and the sort of things that need to go in it, one of the
Yeah.
most common things that I get asked is what script software should people use? And well, I know you. I mean,
Yeah.
we have very strong views on this, don't we?
We do have views. One of the things that I would say is that a lot of script writing software is for screen.
Mm,
So things like Highland Pro, which I use, I have been delving into more recently, is lovely for screenwriting, where you get those, like the small amount of dialogue and the rest of it is in, like it automatically formats for that. For audio, it's just Google Docs.
yeah.
Simple. Just
Well,
Google Docs because, yeah, go on.
Word dragged into Google, turned it into a Google Doc, and
Yeah,
it you've got it. I mean, it just get started. I mean, particularly if you're starting, just have a
yeah,
go with something you already have. But there are practical reasons as well, aren't there? So in the
yeah.
studio, because the microphones are so sensitive, we
Hmm.
don't want rustly paper. So everyone has an iPad, and it does
Most people.
mean,
Or we
and
have multiple and we share them,
we do,
like,
we do.
yeah, yeah,
Yes, but we can make amendments on the
yeah,
hoof, and people see them. The actors can then see them.
yeah.
So we've always got the latest version of the script, and that isn't always possible if you're
No.
using really high-end software.
No, exactly. Like if you're using a high-end software, you get a PDF.
Hmm.
And I refer to PDF as the resting bitch face of document formats. It's Like, it's
Makes me
like, this
laugh
is
every
what you're
time you say
getting.
that.
It's true though. It's like, you don't get to change this. Okay. Whereas the Google Docs, I mean, what I did for Wasteland, we had somebody in the cast who was dyslexic. We've had another one in Dex Legacy since. I
Mm.
made a folder and dropped all of the scripts into a folder each for the actors. And then the actors that needed it could go in, make their speeches a bigger font,
Yeah, different colours,
highlight them, make
highlight.
them a
Yeah,
different
yeah.
color. You know, they can do that in Google Docs, and they can't do it, you know, if you just give them a PDF. And so for accessibility reasons, it can work better for the actors, especially when it's a working document and they're in there and they're on the in the moment having to read and perform.
Mm.
Being able to make their lines bigger and, you know, blue or something, it can make a big difference. So
Hmm.
yeah.
There we go. If you want big blue font in your script, Google Docs can be your
No
friend.
shade.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yep.
Well, we mentioned earlier that dialogue,
Mm.
rather obviously, this is the art of the bleeding obvious, I think.
Yeah.
Dialogue is quite important to audio drama. So this next section is going to be about dialogue and characters. Now,
Hmm.
we've talked about dialogue as the bedrock of an audio script. But dialogue needs to do more work in audio than in most other mediums, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It really needs to provide signposts for the listener, as well as just, you know, the conversation isn't enough. You need to think about, what does the listener need right now to be able to visualize what's going on. So one of the key things that you need to bear in mind is, start off the scene, they need to say each other's names.
Mm.
And sometimes, I mean, writing for audio means you have to repeat characters' names in the dialogue more than you would naturally.
Because we don't have
But
those clues, do we? We don't
you
know
can't
that
see,
that voice belongs to the tall guy in the red jacket.
especially if you're first, if you're diving into a new world, and there's a lot of world building, a lot of new characters to introduce,
Mm.
you know, being able to keep track of who's who is very difficult with new voices. So you have to do that. And also, like, you know, having a moment, for instance, I get around this. We have a knock at the door opens. Nathaniel will say, "Oh, sir, Devik, you know, have you heard about this thing?"
Mm.
We instantly know that the people who just walked into the room are Osa and Devik.
Yes.
You know, it's not what you'd necessarily say, but it doesn't sound contrived either. It's you know,
Mm.
it's greeting them, and they say, "No, Nathaniel, I don't." Okay, well, you know, like, then we've reinforced that it's Nathaniel.
And if we don't do that, we hear some footsteps come in, but it could be anyone.
Yeah, it could be anybody. Like, it could be anybody at all.
Yeah.
So you need to talk about their names. You need to describe that. Okay, so things that you can see, describe what you can see. We are not talking about, "Oh, look, there is a yellow flower on the floor with 8 petals and a orange center." We are not talking about that in dialogue. That's, unless you're at
That
a
would be unnatural
horticulture kind
dialogue.
of, like, you know,
Mm.
country fair or something. Yeah, exactly. That would be unnatural. We're not talking about,
More of which
"Oh,
you'll
I
have.
will just put my coat on and walk out of the door now." You know, no, 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 no. What you need to do is think about ways in which you can, um, you know, work like clues
Mm.
into your dialogue. So one of the things I sort of, I've used as an example of that is, you know, you've got two characters and they're working on something, and one way to do this would be to say, "Hey, twist that thing while I pull this." All right.
Which genre are
Now,
we? Which genre are we working in here?
see, it always sounds dodgy, and it doesn't help when you say things like that.
Sorry.
Say, if we say, you know, twist that valve and
Thank you.
I'll pull this lever, then you
Are these
instantly have given
euphemisms?
people,
Sorry.
you instantly
shall I stop
stop
talking?
distracting. You're
Oh.
so badly behaved. Frasier isn't even here. So you, you get these, sort of this idea of, you know, what they're working on. You know,
Hmm.
it's much more detailed just by adding the specificity there.
You can do so
That's
much
a
with just a few words, can't you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sound effects, obviously, to back it up. But, you know, being
Hmm.
a little bit more specific in what somebody is saying means that the picture is complete in someone's head. They know
Hmm.
exactly. They know that it's a lever.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it could
Yeah.
it could be a bell pull. If you just
Yes.
say pull that thing, it could be a bell pull, it could be
Mm.
anything. Pull that lever, it's a lever, it's part of a
Yeah.
mechanism. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
completely, yeah.
And we
Yeah.
talked about unnatural dialogue, and that,
Mm,
what the example I always give, we need to tell the listener that the character is going to walk from their house to the middle of town,
mm,
but the character can't, because it would be really unnatural to say, right, I'm walking down the street now.
yeah.
So how do you get around that? I mean, one of the things is the character who's there to ask questions, isn't it?
Yeah, the foil character. So normally you have to have two characters in a scene at one time.
Mm.
Um, I would always advocate for that because if you don't,
Someone's
you're
just
into sort
talking
of
to
like,
themselves. Yeah.
yeah. And how many times do you walk into a room and go, dum de dum de dum. Oh, I'm
Well,
looking for a
you,
book.
you do
Oh, I
quite
wonder
often.
where that book is.
I've heard you
I do
do it.
not. No, I whisper other things, but not that. But like how many times do you walk into a room and just narrate what you're doing? It's
Hardly ever.
not that
Mm.
often, no.
Mm.
So you want to have somebody else there who can say, "What are you doing?" And I
Mm.
say, "Oh, well, I
Yeah.
can't reach that book, so I've got to stand on the thing." Like,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, give me a hand. I'll, I'm taller than you."
Where
Okay,
are you
great.
going? Why?
Yeah, exactly. Why are you going there? Like maybe you
Yeah.
should calm down, like stuff like that. You need to have that extra person. And actually, I had a scene in my head that I wanted to write, and it just involved one person. And it was in season one. And I didn't know how I was going to do this. And I was thinking about like, sort of internal monologue or something. We'd never done that in the series before. You can't just
Mm.
introduce a new narrative device at like episode 6 of a season. If you start out down that way, you have to start with it. We'll
Mm.
probably talk more about this in a bit. But yeah, so what I did was I wrote it out in prose,
Mm.
what I wanted. And then I added another character and wrote it out as script. But I
Yeah.
did the writing out as prose first.
That's a
And
good tip,
yes,
actually. So you've worked out what you want to say,
mm,
and then you can break it down, and
exactly.
have someone do the whys, whats, and
Yeah. And
wherefores.
we shouldn't be doing this. And,
Mm.
but wait, what's that thing? What do all these machines do? Why, there's just a pane of glass between us and that thing. Is
So you're
this
world
safe?
building as
Like that
well.
sort of thing. Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
asking questions of each other, being uncertain to each other is a great device.
Mm.
Yeah. Mm.
Now, and something I think you've mentioned to me, probably in a pub somewhere, um, is that you find it really useful that we are in season 3 of the Dex Legacy now. We know our actors and we know their voices very,
Yeah,
very
yeah.
well, and you can write now with those specific actor
Mm.
voices in your head, which must be incredibly useful. But can you remember when you were starting off? I mean, what did you do about? Because I always think it is useful to have voices
Mm.
in your head as you write audio drama. What
Yeah.
did you do? Did you use famous actors' voices that you knew of, or just people that you work with, or whatever?
I know some people who do that.
Mm.
I I mean, I'm a weird one in that I had written novels in this world with these characters before I even started writing the audio drama, which was a
Yes.
prequel. And so I'd already spent about 300,000 words in the world at that point. So I was still drafting the second and third books while we started season 1. So nothing helps you hammer out voice like spending 300,000 words with characters. Okay. Like nothing does that. And so when I went to writing the scripts, I already knew these characters inside and out. I
Mm.
knew how they would say things, I knew how they would frame things. And so getting the voice right initially was fully a result of having spent so much time writing them. As time went on, I have their voices in my head,
Mm.
like now. But and also when I write the books as well, like I can hear them. I can hear them in my head.
Yeah, you have the actor
Yeah.
voices. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. Like they just totally own it now. But yeah, it was the novel. It was the novel that really gave me that grounding. But I do know people who use actors as a sort of reference point
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
But I mean, beware of, setting your heart on this voice that you've always planned as Robert Downey Jr.
See, now
because
this
you
is
won't be
the
able to
tricky
afford
thing.
him.
You won't be able to afford Robert Downey Jr. unless, well, you might, but yeah, I mean, like, I don't like to speak for everybody,
You
but
might be able to use Nigel Downey Senior from down the pub.
I'll do it for a packet of peanuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so yeah, no, like it's tricky, but yeah, that's a good point. Actually, you don't want to get too caught up on a specific actor voice because then when it comes to casting, it's a
You
nightmare.
could be disappointed.
Yeah, and you don't want to be saying to people, "I need you to do an impression of Robert Downey Jr. while you're playing this part," because that's a bit rubbish. So you got to bear that in mind.
Yeah.
Mm.
Just before we move off voice and character, I want to talk a little bit about one of the pitfalls I think that people fall into when they're writing audio drama, also I think a bit in novels actually, is that character voices aren't distinct enough. Now, in audio drama, we have this thing which is the actors' voices, and that will do a lot of work for us in making characters sound distinct. But it shouldn't be the only bit of work that gets done on character distinctness. So can you say a little bit about what you do to make your characters' voices distinct before an actor's even got involved there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like a lot of it is communication. So on this, the script has to do everything. And I would say that one of the things I've learned is punctuation in a script that's being used by an actor is not the same as punctuation in a novel. Actors will read commas as breaks. So where grammatically you would put, I'm talking about this, comma, name, comma, da 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 da. And if you're reading it, you won't pause because that's just how you read it. But an actor will pause. They will say, I can't believe you said that, Jeff. Now I'm going to do the thing. And it doesn't sound naturalistic. So in order to get the rhythm of someone's words right, you've got to treat punctuation almost like musician, like music, like notation on it. It becomes like a rest. A comma is absolutely necessary, like ellipses as well. Using beat.
Yes, because we have that other thing. We have that tool, don't we? That thing called beat, which is
which is just pause.
Yeah.
Like you need to, in order to differentiate, also obviously think about the types of words that are being used, the type of vocabulary. Is this person sophisticated or are they pretty basic? Like don't use big words for that character. But also maybe, like if they're slow of speech, use more commas, use more punctuation that will slow down delivery from an actor. So that kind of thing. It's quite interesting. I found composing the dialogue almost.
It does feel like that, and particularly I think on the sound design side of things, not least because we use the same software to do the mix as I use to mix music. So it is almost like layering the different instruments in a piece of music. But I think the dialogue's a bit like that as well.
Definitely.
Well, let's move on then to two of the different sorts of audio drama, and I'll just really talk about the standalone drama, 30 minutes or an hour that tells a whole story, versus the series. And you've done both.
I have.
So I think inevitably, because of what you do and what we do together, we'll talk more about serial drama here. But any thoughts on the standalone drama? You've got to tell a story quickly. It's like a short story almost, isn't it?
It is a short story. You're setting scene. You are establishing character. You are, there is a thing that happens. You are running through that event, and then it resolves at the end, probably. In the story, probably. The
character takes a journey of some sort, but it's going to be a shorter, less complicated one than they might in over 14 episodes in the series.
Yeah, layering and subplots and things tend to not be such a key component. And vast casts are also not a good idea. So I would say actually, if like in terms of smaller dramas that are one-off, you do not want a cast of more than like 5 people.
Yeah, 4 or 5. I mean, two's obviously the minimum. But 4 or 5 would be a good number, and distinct voices.
Exactly, you've got to understand that listeners are going to be hearing these voices just for the space of like 30 minutes or an hour. And if you've got 20 characters in that time, there is no way anybody is going to listen to that cacophony and be able to make head nor tail of it at the end. You've got to be sensible about this. Like writing for audio is a lot about practicalities. What is it that you're trying to get out at the end? And is it practical? And also on budget comes into it.
Of course.
Can I afford 20 actors for a 1-hour drama?
Well, not if they're Robert Downey Jr.
Well, definitely not if they're Robert Downey Jr. Yeah,
Nigel Downey Senior.
Nigel Downey Senior, you can have
20
quid
a day,
but the listeners will not appreciate it. So you do have to think about the practicalities.
Well, let's think then about the series, because I mean, you have a spreadsheet, don't you, that you work on?
Which is so unlike me.
If we're clever, we might be able to show that spreadsheet or picture of it on the screen now. But I mean, tell us a few of the things that you do when you're planning a series, then, Emily.
Oh, well, I mean, as a novelist, if you told me that I would be planning anything by a spreadsheet, I would have laughed at you. But over the years and after a few seasons of audio drama, I've realized that spreadsheets are actually the way forward. One of the things that I would always say, and having spent some time on Reddit, where I'm like, there's a lot of views of listeners.
You have a little fan community on Reddit, don't you?
Well, I mean, I lurk in the audio drama forum. What the audio drama forum teaches you is what people hate about certain audio dramas, which is useful. And one of the things that comes up repeatedly is endings. Yeah, they really want to know. Proper payoff. Like listeners put a lot of time and energy and investment in these characters.
And it's more work to listen to an audio drama than it is to watch a TV show, isn't it?
They are creative partners because they are visualizing. They are bringing the visuals to the table themselves. So they are investing a huge amount in this production that you are giving them. If you haven't thought about your ending or where it's going when you start out, that shows, and they get really annoyed about it. So one of the things that I've learned, and I also I went back to season 3 when I was writing it and rearranged things a bit because I watched Silo, and the endings of every episode in Silo made me angry. I was angry that people could leave me in that state for a week. I was angry with them for even thinking of it.
But it's good to feel things though, right?
Oh God, I shouted at the screen sometimes when the credits started rolling. I was like, no! And I realized that I wanted to make my listeners angry. And so I went back to my spreadsheet where I had
we've lost
neatly
thousands,
organized.
haven't we, over this series? No,
we have not actually, but we have gained. No, so I went back to my spreadsheet where I had been organizing my scenes, and I added a final column called end line.
Yes.
Of each episode, and so every episode has a final line, and I want to know that I am going to get to that moment before credits roll, music starts, and then that's going to leave people in anticipation of what comes next. Also, I mean, it helps with Deck's legacy that I know where I'm going because the original novels are set 11 years in the future. So I know where I'm getting to. But knowing where each season ends and how each season wraps is very important. You have to start at the end, is the moral to this. This is what I'm coming around to. Start at the end. Know where you're ending and then work out how you're getting there.
Which is not a bad tip for writing a novel, actually, either.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And actually listening to Script Notes, a podcast, which is absolutely brilliant, recommend it to everyone. But the writer of The Boys was saying that they worked out the final scene in like one of the seasons, and then all of the rest of the writing was how do we get there. And so it's good practice. It's not just me.
Mm.
Okay, it's good practice. Start at the end, know where you're getting to, and then get your listeners there. And yeah, that is a great rule.
Another thing that I think you've introduced into our process, you've classed everything up that I do in alternative stories, but the heat map, which, and I think there's two layers of heat maps, aren't there? There was one, the per episode heat map, and then there's the per series heat map. So could you say a little bit about heat maps and how you use them, please?
Yeah, so heat maps are normally something that I have applied. I apply sort of like retrospectively to novels, and I go through chapter by chapter, and I like it's a traffic light system. So green is chilled out, yellow is a bit tense, orange, and then red for like levels of action. Okay, and then you can tell very easily the sweep or the balance of action through a novel, and see if there's a sweep of sort of like green, yellow through to amber, through to red, then back to a bit of green at the end. Like if there's that kind of sweep to it, which is a nice sweep. You can work that out. With seasons and episodes, it's a similar thing. You have scenes, and you can color the scene. This is a red scene. This is a blue. This is a green scene. And then you can see at a glance, is this entire episode just green?
Yeah, because it's going to be a little bit dull, isn't it? If everything's nice and lovely.
On the flip side, if an entire episode is red, your listeners aren't going to have any time to breathe. They're going to get to the end of that episode. They're going to be in shock. They're going to be like, and a lot of our listeners listen while they're driving. We have a responsibility to road safety. You do have to bear this in mind. Okay, so
several constabularies have talked to us about this, haven't they?
Absolutely. You do not want to be that person. So, you've got to think, okay, if there's too much red here, we need a breather. We need a moment of whew, and then back. You need it gives you it gives you an ability to sort of get oversight, and that's what a spreadsheet does. It gives you oversight. One of the things that the Dex Legacy has, we now have a cast of like 20 plus characters, and each column of the spreadsheet is not by individual character, it's by set of characters. And this is very important, actually, and I should talk about this. In each scene, you don't want more than 4 voices in each scene. And that means you don't want more than 4 people in the room, because if the person doesn't speak, they're not there. According to the listener, they can't tell that that person is standing in the corner if that person doesn't say anything, or if nobody says something about them or to them, or like if they're not mentioned, they're not there. Okay, so when I was introducing these characters, I have Varian, Isra, and Ren in one set, and I have Nathaniel, Devek, Tristan, and Osa in another set, and that is a set. And over time, we've introduced more sets. Kit and Valentina. We've got, the kids on the front line, which is, Faris, Haindos, Pax, and, and they're another set. And so what I've done is created columns for each set of characters. Yeah. Scene 1 with the adults is here. Scene 2, Varian, Isra, and Ren. Scene 3, we've got something with Kit and Valentina. Scene 4, back to the adults. And then that allows oversight of how much of each character set we've got. Is it that we don't hear from a main set of characters for 3 episodes? Well, that's terrible for balance, because when you realize then, suddenly they're playing a key role in the second half of the season, it's like, well, if we've had absolutely nothing from them until that point, you can't have that. You've got to give some context to people. You've got to give people that continuity. So I did that with Kit and Valentina. They come into season 3, they come into their own as main characters in season 3 from about halfway point onwards. But
they are sprinkled in little bits of them.
Exactly, yes. Because I realised there was nothing. And I was like, no, because people need to know that there's stuff happening here before the big stuff launches, before we launch into the big stuff. So I then went back and I sowed those seeds.
So it's all about planning. And listeners to the Dex Legacy, I mean, I'm sure people listen and think this thing's planned, but it really is
from season 2 it is.
Yes, Season
Season
one
one,
was winged rather than planned.
season one, I still get PTSD about season one. We didn't know we were writing a season. I wrote episode one as a standalone. Didn't know I was writing a season until I got to the end of writing episode two. Then I didn't know how many episodes there were going to be. We were writing and releasing on the go. So we were releasing episode four, and I hadn't written episode six yet. I had no idea how the season was going to go or end. It was terrifying.
Don't do it like
not
that,
do
kids.
that.
Yes.
Do not do that. I am telling you now, learn from our mistake, because no. I mean,
stress. And well, look, we won't dwell on that too much, because we are trying to be positive about the whole thing. Spreadsheet and plans. And that was also useful for your novels, your short stories.
Absolutely. It's paid off. It's paid dividends. Yeah.
Now, we are coming towards the end of this session. Just a few other little considerations when you're, planning your audio drama. So I'm just going to, this is going to be very, very quick fire. Narrator. Do you have lots of audio dramas use a narrator? We don't, but that's something that you could do. So, there are upsides and downsides to using a narrator, but that's one of the things that you can consider. Whether characters break the fourth wall. So breaking the fourth wall is about the character speaking directly to the audience. One of the nice things it gives you is the ability for a character to say, this is what I'm feeling. These are my innermost thoughts and fears.
What the hell is that guy's problem?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, they can almost represent us as a listener, and we empathize with them more. But it's a device that you've got to use it properly. You can't just bring it in episode 8, having never used it before, because that would be weird. And then a couple of devices that you might use particularly I think for starting a story, but maybe even for telling most of it. One of them is the character leaving either voicemail messages or recording an audio diary or something like that. That works really well as an audio storytelling technique.
The dictaphone.
Yeah.
I should say about Girl in Space. The character carries a dictaphone with her, and sometimes she goes into a certain environment and she isn't recording a diary, but she's recording like a personal, like an immediate response. I've just walked into a room. I can see these things happening. I can see this thing. And she's making a note to herself, to her future self. It's very organic, but also because she's describing what's happening to her future self, she's also describing what she can see and smell.
So you can go back in time to her recording from a while ago. Yeah.
No, but in the show, in that immediate sense, when she's recording it in that moment for her future self, the listeners in that moment are hearing the description of what's going on right now.
I see. So the world building aspect. Yeah.
Exactly. She is saying this environment, it looks like this. I'm smelling this. I'm smelling that. In that moment, we are knowing what she's seeing, what she's smelling, what she's feeling. That's the
really nice device, isn't it? Another quite common device. You see this, I think, particularly in police procedural shows, is where there is a leader of a group. They could be a senior police officer or an army leader briefing a group. And as a listener, we are almost like a member of that group, hearing about what's been going on. And it's a great way to get your listeners into a story really quickly. And like everything, grabbing a listener or the audience very quickly is really important, I think. So that's just, a real flyby of the world of audio drama. If people want to know a bit more, Emily, we have some books, don't we?
We do. If you want to start out your audio drama journey with how not to write an audio drama, this is the Dex Legacy Season 1 scripts and commentary. Now, one of the joyous things that this includes is a checklist of everything that needs to be done per episode. This checklist is designed to make you think, that can't be done in a week.
It could.
Yeah, it can't.
But it wasn't an ideal way of doing it.
With a nervous breakdown. But yes, so how not to write an audio drama, a lot of salient lessons in this one. This one Season 2 scripts and commentary, how to write an audio drama. Now,
Mm.
this one, not only does it have a lot more about studio recording as opposed to asynchronous recording, but it also talks about crowdfunding because we did a Kickstarter for this one as well. And it's, it has completely different stuff in it. Basically, this was all about the recording in lockdown and asynchronous. This is about kickstarting and recording in the studio and taking the series to the next level. I would recommend both, obviously, but I would recommend both because they have completely different angles and completely different tips, depending on what your budget is and what you're aiming to achieve.
We also tried to get wider perspectives in the second of the books.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So Tim Hardy of this Spotlight Indie parish gives some listener thoughts. Charlie Richards, who's one of our lead actors, gave thoughts about being an actor in it. I give my producer, director, sound designer thoughts as well. So it's got a rich set of thoughts and ideas,
perspectives and ideas, and it's very interesting
and
to
all
get
scripts,
the listener perspective.
Yes.
And all the scripts as well.
Yeah. Well, so thank you. We hope we have whetted a few appetites. We hope some of you will have a go at writing some audio drama. We'll put some details somewhere so that you can find our shows, have a listen if you haven't already, buy our books maybe. So thank you so much. And I've been Chris Gregory.
I've been Emily Inkpen.
And this has been a Spotlight Indie Big Weekend chat about audio drama.